of PC Voyage. I'm Rainey Laviolette.
And I'm Andrew Doty. On this week's program, we have Bob Clements with PC Voyage News, Tim Hamlet with Question and Answers, Jim Dilks with Bits and PCs, and Chip, our computer assistant. Hi, Chip.
It's good to see you again this week. Let me know if I can be of service.
We'll do that, Chip. Have you ever been interested in upgrading or your computer had a problem with it? I think we all have. This week, our guest is Steve Pubeni, president of Stat Microservice in West Springfield. Hello, Steve.
Oh, good evening, Rainey, and hello to you,
Andy.
Andy.
Can you please tell us a little bit about Stat Microservice?
Well, Stat Microservice is located in West Springfield, and we service most of western Massachusetts and northern Connecticut. We do computer maintenance and repair for many companies that already own their computers, and we also deal with professionals that own computers in the home.
What kind of problems do people as a rule bring to you?
Well, I would say that a computer, unlike another device, perhaps like a copier or a telephone, is more complex because they run programs, and every program makes a computer operate differently. So the problems we see are vast, ranging anywhere from children sticking shoehorns into a computer to, of course, in the press we've seen a lot about computer viruses. We've been dealing a lot with those, and just general act of God type of computer failures.
What can you do if somebody has had a computer virus? Is there anything you can do to help them along?
Well, I think the first step is that they need to identify which type of virus, and sometimes it's not that easy. Their initial contact with us may be in the fact that they suspect they have a computer problem, and after we run one of the virus checking programs, that's when we generally just find out they have a virus. The absolute best protection against any type of computer virus, of course, is to back up the information, and that way if something does happen, we have a recourse to get the information back.
Okay. On a different issue, a lot of people have older 8088 type computer systems and are looking to upgrade them to 386, maybe an SX or a DX system. What would you tell that person who wanted to upgrade his computer from the 8088 to the 386?
Rainey, I get that question a lot. There's a lot of people that do want to upgrade their computers. Software has evolved quite a bit. They may feel their computer's running very slow and they've been left behind. Unfortunately, on that particular family of computers, the computers that may have been purchased in 1980 through 1983, it's just not feasible to upgrade those, and they're better off buying. However, if someone has what we call a 286 type of system or newer, it's very easy, and it can be cost effective to upgrade that type of computer system.
When people try to perform these upgrades themselves, what precautions should they take to ensure that everything goes smoothly?
Andy, I would say the most important thing is self-confidence. That if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then you're probably better off not. But once they feel they have the self-confidence, they certainly shouldn't just open up that box and rush into it. They should take the time to go through the information that's provided, make sure they've thoroughly read any of the documentation. Also, computers today are static sensitive. They need to take precautions against static shock by touching the power supply on the computer, and of course making sure that when they plug things in that they don't have to force components in. We have seen some people bring computers in because of breakage and because they didn't observe static precautions. So they bought the upgrade trying to save money, and it ended up costing them more money in the long run.
What about, you mentioned static. Should they consider possibly purchasing one of those static straps to place around their wrist from a local electronics store?
I don't think that's really necessary when they do an installation. They don't upgrade their equipment very often. We use those in our shop all the time. I would say the most important thing is to touch the power supply of the computer, which is metal, or any part of the metal case, and to handle that circuit board by the edges, not by the the connector or by any of the components. And of course, if they just don't feel comfortable with it, they should refer it to somebody who is competent in doing that kind of work.
With the prices of memory dropping as rapidly as they have over the last couple of years, and everybody seems to be putting more memory into their computer systems, what kind of precautions can those people take to make sure that they don't blow the memory chip?
Well, memory can come in very different types of packages, Rainey, so it's difficult to really answer that question entirely. We have what's called a DIP package, where you have a component where there's several legs coming off, and there's a possibility they could bend a leg underneath. We also have what's called a SIM module, which is single inline memory module, which plugs in just like a circuit card. Most people can plug those in pretty easily. Then there's a SIP module, which is designed like a SIM but has pins, and those can bend. So I would say, again, take the static precautions, and if it just doesn't feel comfortable, then you may be doing something wrong, because these things should plug in easily.
With more and more software requiring greater hard drive space, what problems can occur when somebody tries to upgrade their hard drive?
Well, today we're seeing hard drives that are known as an IDE type, which stands for Integrated Drive Electronics. These drives typically sell for between $100 and $200 less than drives 3 or 4 years ago. The problem with these IDE type of hard drives is the fact that they're not directly compatible with older computers. At the very least, you'd need to change what we call the controller card, and in some instances that isn't even enough. They may need either some special software to format the drive, or perhaps they may need what we call a BIOS change, which is a circuit inside the computer. So if anyone's changing hard drives, that's probably something that's a little on the edge of being able to do that themselves. Considering that also holds all their valuable information, they wouldn't want to take a chance on losing it. Something like that, I would definitely recommend that most people bring that to a professional to do.
Now, I noticed that you brought a hard drive with you tonight.
Yes, I did.
I know mine don't have plastic covers on them. How does a hard drive actually work?
Well, the reason why I brought this along tonight is we did a trade show a couple years ago, and I thought it would be kind of nice for people to see what's inside that black box. And if you take a close look at it, you'll see that the drive doesn't look very sturdy. It looks very fragile. And if people realize how fragile these hard drives were, they would take better care at backing up their information. But the way the drive works is that this platter here rotates around. And as it's rotating around like a record, there is actually what we call read-write heads, which are literally flying above those platters at a distance less than the thickness of a hair. And that's why you certainly couldn't pick up a computer and drop it. You have to be careful using a computer around any sort of vibrations. Of course, today's laptop computers are built a little sturdier, and the hard drives are meant to take more of a bang. This particular one here, if I were to drop it while we're operating, I'm sure it would fail.
What if somebody had a hard drive and it did fail? What options do they have at that point to recover any data that might be on it?
When we get that kind of call, Randy, the very first thing I ask them is whether they have a backup, because that's always the best source of getting the information back. If they don't have a backup, then what we'll do is we'll take the drive in, evaluate the problem, and see if there's a way that we can recover the data. We've been very successful recovering data from computers that have been in fires and floods. Also, if a computer was attacked by a computer virus, we've had some success at getting the data back there. But it's still a much more expensive way to recover the data than simply backing it up.
When someone needs service, how much could they expect to pay on average?
Well, there are probably a dozen or so places someone could get a computer repaired in the western Massachusetts area here. And in doing a survey of rates, I find that the rates vary between $50 an hour and $120. So as you can see, there's a wide variance there. The real key is not so much what someone charges per hour, but when you have a job done or you bring a job to a computer professional, you should be able to get an estimate on what the total will cost. Well, we charge $75 per hour, but I know in some cases our bills are less than people that charge $50, simply because we bill for less hours and our parts markup is significantly less than other people.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Steve for coming on this program. If you have any problems, feel free to contact Steve or any of his employees at Stat Microservice, located at 168 South Boulevard in West Springfield. Their phone number is 733-2175.
You know, the whole issue on the hard drives brings up a good point, and Here's a hard drive that I had crash on me several years ago. I was going to blame you for this one, but I changed my mind at the last minute. This is a hard drive that crashed, and we pulled the cover off. It's not as transparent as Steve's is, and this one here is not functional. But don't do this with your hard drives at home. As you can see, the way the hard drive moves the head back and forth on it, and this, the drive here is actually spinning at about 3,000 RPMs. But this is just a little bit bigger model of what Steve had brought in, and this was one that had crashed, and sometimes it's not worth repairing the drive. You just throw it away and you keep going. After Chip brings you our trivia question, we're going to have Bob Clements here with PC Voyage News.
Here are this week's computer trivia questions. Number 1. What does the word spool, as in print spooler, stand for? And number 2. If 3 files have the same file name, and their file extensions are exe, vtt, and com, which one will run first?
Hello, welcome back. An even better question would be, what order do they execute in? Bob Clements is now on hand with PC Voyage News. Bob?
Thanks, Andy. Hi, Rainey, Andy. Folks, tonight's stories are about Kodak, DAC, 5th generation systems, Packard Bell, and the Memory Miser by SoftLogic Solutions. Eastman Kodak is bolstering its photo CD venture with help from a bunch of industry heavyweights. Companies that will support the technology with CD-ROM drives include Sony America, Toshiba America, Pioneer Communications, Philips Consumer Electronics. Apple hopes to be in the program at a later date. Photo CD puts 35mm photographs on a disc that shutterbugs can view at home. Kodak says the system will revolutionize home photography. A $199 CD-ROM drive is now available from DAC Industries, the company best known for its chatty mail order catalogs. The $199 price includes a PC interface card, cable software drivers, programmable launchers for CD applications, and music discs. And 5th generation systems has created a Windows version of its direct access menuing program. The $99 program automatically creates a standard icon-based menu to better organize both Windows and DOS-based applications in a single location. Packard Bell is offering an entry-level multimedia system on a 25 megahertz 386-based PC. It includes a CD-ROM drive, a digital audio mixer, a stereo audio system, and a wide array of interfaces. It also features 4 megabytes of RAM, a 100 megabyte hard disk, a built-in 24-bit modem, and VGA graphics. The system, without monitor, costs $2,199. PC users looking to get more power out of their systems without spending a great deal of money will want to check out Memory Miser 386. Memory Miser 386 allows users to easily optimize their PC memory utilization, makes systems run faster, and the data capacity of its programs are increased. It will be offered at an introductory price of $39.95. The software reduces the impact of DOS's built-in 640 KB memory limitation, and Resource and Use Viewer gives users a detailed look at how memory is allocated. The program installs easily, uses a minimum amount of lower RAM, and is designed not to get in the way of other programs. The software is designed for operation by PC users at all levels of expertise. Memory Miser 386 requires a 386 or 486 base PC with at least 1 megabyte of memory. It supports DOS 3.0 or higher and works with Windows 3.0 in either the enhanced or real mode. The program was developed by SoftLogic Solutions. And that's all for tonight, guys.
Well, thanks, Bob. You've talked a lot about multimedia in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed. Is this something we're going to be hearing more and more about?
Yes, it is. It seems that it's becoming more and more affordable, as one of the stories tonight indicated. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this.
Well, thanks, Bob. Have you noticed that since Microsoft's came out has come out with the new version of Windows 3.1 that you're now hearing a lot more about multimedia. They've built some multimedia extensions into it.
Built it right in there. So if you have a CD-ROM drive and Windows 3.1, I guess you're all set.
Wow, that's awesome. Next up, after the trivia question and answer, Tim Hamlet will be here with questions and answers.
Here are this week's computer trivia answers. Number 1. The word spool stands for simultaneous peripheral operation online. And if 3 files have the same name, the COM file will run first, the exe file will run second, and the BAT file will run third.
Welcome back again. I guess Chip answered the question for me. And now, Tim Hamlet's on hand with PC Voyage question and answers. Tim?
Hi, Rainey and Andy. Welcome back to another session of PC Voyage questions and answers. As we were setting up the computer tonight and checking to make sure everything was working, we had a little problem getting the mouse to operate properly. And as we inspected the mouse, our producer Keith Davis asked, well, how does the darn thing work anyway? Well, Keith, it's really not hard to understand. First of all, this is a mouse. Okay, if I can get it unhooked here. All right, it's a pointing device that was made popular by Apple computers by including it as standard equipment with its Macintosh systems. Its popularity has been growing by leaps and bounds with the introduction of graphic user interfaces such as Windows. You use the mouse to point to a symbol that stands for some pre-designated function and press the button. But how does the cursor know where to go? Well, the ball underneath the mouse rests against a pair of axles. And when the mouse is moved over a surface of the desk, the ball moves the wheels. And one set of wheels controls the vertical movement of the cursor, and the other set controls the horizontal movement. The wheels are sometimes connected to other sets of wheels through the use of axles or gears. At least one set of these wheels has conductive markings on it that allow the flow of electricity to brushes that send the signal to the computer to create the movement of the cursor. You need special software called the mouse driver in order for the computer to interpret the signals, and is usually included when you purchase the mouse. There are some mice that operate using LEDs instead of conductive markings on the wheels, and photosensors instead of brushes, but the principle is the same. And while I'm here, I should mention trackballs. This is a trackball. You might call it a mouse on its back. It has the ball on top instead of underneath the mouse. You don't have to move the entire unit around the desktop in order to get the cursor to move. That's really good if you have limited desk space. And it gives a finer control than a regular mouse does. And personal preference is going to determine which type of mouse or trackball you're going to purchase. I hope that answers your question, Keith. The other day I was going through some old disks and deleting some of the files that I didn't need anymore, when I realized that I had deleted a file that I still needed. And when I first started using the computer, I thought that once you deleted a file, that was it. It was gone forever. In fact, most new computer users I know think this. But if you delete a file, the most important thing to remember is don't panic and don't write anything on the disk. The file is still there, even though DOS isn't listing it in your directory, as long as you don't write over it. I can't stress that enough. Okay, when you delete a file, DOS changes the first character in the file name to a special character that tells DOS that the file has been deleted and not to list it in the file directory. Could I have the keyboard? Okay, I've prepared a disk here tonight. And on it, I have some files, okay? And say you're doing your deleting or your file maintenance, and you accidentally delete a file that you still need. In this case, I'm using this exe file that's up here, and I just deleted it. And you go, oh, excuse me. There we go. Now I just deleted it. All right. If you're using DOS 5.0, it comes with a a COM file that allows you to undelete the files, and it is called undelete, strangely enough. So, if you write that in there, along with the drive letter where the file is located, it's going to come up and say, there is one file here that has been deleted, and do you want to undelete it? And of course you want to say yes. Okay, and then it's going to ask you for the first character. And hopefully you remember what the first character is. But if you don't, it's not important. You can assign it anything you want. In this case, it's a B. Okay, and it says file successfully undeleted. Okay, if you're not using DOS 5.0, you will need a utility such as Norton in order to do this. So we're going to do the same thing again. Delete the file. And then we're going to pull up Norton. Okay, Norton's is called unerase. And you do the same thing. You unerase and then put the drive letter where the file is located. It'll come up with a screen like this, and you're going to say unerase. And you're going to supply the first letter, and it's going to unerase it, and it has been recovered. Okay, now if we go back to A, it's going to be there. And there's our file, ooze.exe, and it's still there. Okay, well, that's all I have for you tonight. And hope to see you again next week. Rainey and Andy?
Thanks, Tim. After Chip brings you our PC Voyage address where you can send your questions to Tim, Jim Dilks will be on hand with Bits and PCs.
If you have any questions for Tim, or if you have any comments about the show, please write to us. Our address is PC Voyage, P.O. Box 6295, Holyoke, Massachusetts, 01041.
Welcome back. Boy, Rainey, thank God for the creation of the undelete command, huh?
Oh, I know. I don't know what the world would be like without it.
And now, Jim Dilks is on hand with Bits and PCs. Jim?
Hello, Andy and Rainey. This evening I'm going to be discussing some directory commands to show people how to get in and out of subdirectories, create a subdirectory, and also delete a subdirectory. We will start off by creating a subdirectory. And this is the long way of doing it. And later on I'll discuss some shortcuts on this. My sub dir. Now, the directory has been created, and I will now I would like to copy some files over into the subdirectory. And so in order to do that, we will have to move to the subdirectory mhdir. We've moved into the subdirectory. Now I'm going to copy some files. This is if you were going to create a subdirectory to move files from a disk, or you wanted to set up a game or something like that. This is the way we go about it. And We are now moving the files from drive A into the subdirectory. Now, at this point, let's say that you were thinking that maybe you didn't want the subdirectory, okay? There's a command to remove the subdirectory. And what I'm going to show you is that there are several problems you could run into when you do this. For one thing, let's say that we stay exactly where we're at. Okay, it comes back and it says invalid path or directory not empty. What's happened is you can't be in the subdirectory or the files are still in the subdirectory. So what we'd have to do at this point is delete all the files that are in the subdirectory. So we can do that by using del. It says, do you really want to do this, because we will now delete all of the files that are in the subdirectory. Now, we also have to exit the subdirectory before we can delete it. So we will use the command change dir, and we will return to what is called the root directory by using the C:\\. Now, we're out of the subdirectory. We can now delete the subdirectory by saying rd my sub dir. And now the subdirectory has been removed.
Well, thanks, Jim. You're going to be following this up with more shortcuts as far as how people can create and remove directories?
Yes, I will.
All right, great. You know, while Jim's bringing the house down and part of our set with him while he's talking here, you know, I just wanted to make a comment about one thing that Tim did earlier. You know, he was showing off the mouse and he was showing off the trackball. But I think that, you know, Chip himself is a real Mickey Mouse computer. And with that, I think we'll wrap this up till next week. I'm Rainey Laviolette.
And I'm Andrew Doty.
See you next week from PC Voyage.